Good morning. We are live in the Tasmanian Devil exhibit today. We're going to be talking all about these iconic creatures from down under. So join us as you come in. Let us know you're here, who's listening, where you're from. We'll give some shout outs and we'll get started with our daily #ZooOpenOnline live feed. As we said, we're going to be talking Tasmanian Devils today. These guys are so cool, and we are excited to share them with you, and they are so curious to see what we have planned for them today. Hi, Kyler. Hi, Adley, Briley, and Bailey. Good morning, Gavin and Grayson in Kansas City. Hey, Max in Michigan. Hi, Brooks, Vivian, and Beckett in Michigan. Hi, Rosalind. Good morning, Hazel. Thanks for tuning in. Happy 8th birthday to Rowan. We're so glad you tuned in on your birthday. Happy birthday. Hi, Allison. Hey, Jackie in Finley. And shout out to Sister Kayla. Oh, Mary Beth, we have your grandson Kelly tuning in here. Aiden, Cooper, and Macy in Gibsonburg. Good morning. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Easton and Colton. Hey, Hunter. Hi, Liam. Hi to Larry, Theo, William, and Marcus in California. Good morning to Isabel, Colton, and Cassidy. Payson is watching in Toledo. That's awesome. Thank you. Hi to Ashton, Liv, and M. Hi again to Anthony, Wyatt, and Carlin. Good morning, Ruth and Napoleon. Hey, Athena and Caden. Hi, Aubrey and Braden, Lucas and Whitney. Hi, Brantley. All right, guys, today we are talking Tasmanian Devils. Hey, Valerie in Fostoria. Hi, Reggie, Cassidy, and whoops, Waverly. There we go. That's interesting. All right, we're going to come back here. We were, our little gimbal machine there went upside down for a moment, but that's okay, we're back. Hi, Ulrich. Hey, Harper and Bracken. Hi, Mindy. Good morning, Nichelle. Hey, Izzy, Sophia, and Everett. Hi, Mikey in Toledo. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, Finnegan. Hi. I know, Kim, I totally agree. Tasmanian Devils are so adorable, and we can't wait to share them with you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Welcome back to #ZooOpenOnline, our daily Facebook live feed happening each weekday at 10:30 a.m. Today we're talking Tasmanian Devils. And no, not those creatures from the Looney Tunes cartoons. These guys are from Australia and they are so incredibly cool, so we can't wait to tell you all about them. As always, they have some things to say this morning. As always, check out ToledoZoo.org for all the ways that you can stay connected with your zoo while we remain closed during this COVID-19 crisis. We appreciate all of your support. Meals on the Go is starting to blow up. We are so excited that you guys are enjoying Chef Eloise's food. It is delicious. These guys agree. Check out this week's options. You can still order until 2 p.m. today. Barbecue pulled pork and Salisbury steak. So good. The meals cost $35 and feed 4 to 6 people. Order them now at ToledoZoo.org/mealsonthego. And don't forget about all of our virtual education offerings. Check them all out at ToledoZoo.org/virtual. And of course, we thank you for tuning in and supporting us during this difficult time. If you're able to make a donation, please use the donate button here on our live feed or go to ToledoZoo.org/donate. All right, guys, those are our morning announcements, and now we are back to the Devils. We are here with Mary Beth, and as you guys know, if you've tuned into these before, she tells us she gets all of the cool animals. So talk to us about these Tasmanian Devils.
Well, we have two Tasmanian Devils, and their names are Bubbles and Spider-Man. And Bubbles has the wider white stripe, and Spider-Man has mostly black, a little tiny stripe. And those are just individual differences. Animals can have no markings at all, or a fairly wide white amount of white. And they're 3 years old, and they came from Australia. And Spider-Man came from the Monardo Zoo in Adelaide, which is where we got our first devils from. They don't live very long. They only live to be about 6 years old. These guys are 3. And then, did I say that Bubbles came from Tasmania?
All right. And we have these devils as we are supporting the Save the Tasmanian Devil project.
Right.
Talk to us about why they need our help.
Well, Tasmanian devils are endangered. They're only found on the island of Tasmania, which is an island state, kind of like how Hawaii is an island state. Tasmania is the island south of Australia, and it's kind of rugged and remote there. And it's about 1/3 the size of Ohio, but their population is about twice that of Toledo. So it's kind of a sparsely populated area. And Tasmanian devils are in trouble for several reasons. The main one we're going to talk about is the devil facial tumor disease. And in the wild, they have gotten this disease. The first one was spotted in 1985, and it has spread to about 80% of the population. And it's a fatal cancer, and it's transmissible when they feed. And so they fight and they pass it around, which is very rare for cancer. It's a clonal cancer, so it's not a virus. A lot of people ask me that. So when they fight, they can pass it around, and their bodies are very similar. Their DNA is very similar, and it doesn't recognize it and mount an immune response against it. And then they'll grow these big cancers, and then they basically starve. So it's definitely a serious problem, and you can go to SaveTheTasmanianDevil.org and find out more about it. Our zoo started working with the program in 2015, and that's when we got our first devils. And so we have these ambassador devils here because not that many people in the U.S. know about devils. They only think of the cartoon. I have people ask me, "Oh, I didn't know they were a real thing." Mm-hmm. And there's only about 10 to 15,000 left in the wild, and before the disease, there was at least 150,000 of them. So that's a very dramatic drop in their population. And they are also susceptible to roadkill. They're nocturnal animals, so they're active at night, and they feed on dead stuff. So other animals get hit by a car, and then they're feeding on it, and it's dark, and then they'll get hit by a car themselves. So those are two of the main things. There's also the problem of habitat loss and availability for food that they eat. And so I was just going to tell you that in 2017, our zoo sent myself and Corey, our videographer, to Tasmania, and we were so lucky. We got to go to a very remote part of Australia, the southwest coast. And it's a national heritage site. And the area is so remote, we had to fly in on a helicopter with all of our supplies to capture devils, and that was for part of the research with Save the Tasmanian Devil program. We were one of 5 in our group that got to be in that area for a week, and there were 2 teams of 5 each with researchers from Save the Tasmanian Devil Fund, and we were able to capture 8 wild Tasmanian devils in these big PVC traps that were lured overnight for food. And we took samples of them to see if they had the disease, and we measured and took other samples such as feces, and determined if they were male, female, how much they weighed. And so we got all this information. And then the University of Sydney is collaborating with a lot of this data and research and they were able to determine that none of the animals that we found had the disease. So it started in the northeast of Tasmania and has spread from east to west, and so there's very few regions that have not been affected. And we were lucky enough to find, these animals that had not been affected. And a couple other things we found. One thing was that one of the animals that got trapped overnight had a visitor, an animal that it was bonded with apparently, and that animal stayed all night next to it and even chased off some other devils. And this was the first time that was ever recorded in the wild. So we were, not that much is known about them because they live in these very rugged, remote areas. It was a temperate rainforest, and it was about 40 to 60 degrees, very rainy and wet and windy. It's cold down there because you're very far south, and the wind comes from the south. And up here we think, oh, it's cold, the wind's coming from the north, and so we had to totally think differently. We're living basically as far away from Ohio as you can get before you start coming back again.
Sure. That is so cool. Tell us what we're going to be doing here, and then we are getting 1,000,012 questions, so we want to get right to it.
Great. I'll quit blabbing. Okay, we have, so they are scavengers, right? They eat dead stuff. They'll also catch live animals if they can. So they are the largest carnivorous marsupial. And so what they eat in the wild is things like they might eat a dead thing that's washed up on shore, like a penguin or a fish or a seal carcass, or they might eat a wallaby carcass, a wombat, a possum, even some larvae. But we get a lot of deer carcasses donated because of roadkill here in Ohio. And so I'm not going to give them a whole deer, obviously. We don't want them to get overweight, and our female is a little bit chubby right now. But so I just trimmed up part of the deer carcass. This is the rib bone on one side and the spine, and some of the fur. And so they would get this maybe once a month. The other food items they get are rabbit, rats, other bones, eggs, chicks. Everything we give them is humanely euthanized before they get it. And then we get this from the highway patrol. They call and donate it. And so our other animals, like the tigers and the wolves, eat a lot of deer meat as well.
And so you're going to go ahead and put that in the exhibit.
Right.
And so we'll watch that process, and then she will transfer the devils over here and we'll get to see them eat. So as you guys know, we always try to let you know before a carcass feed is going to happen. We do always want to encourage our animals to remain, in this case, we want our devils to be devils and to act as devils. So this is part of promoting their natural behaviors and different types of enrichment to maintain the animal part. So that's going to happen soon. So if that's not something you guys want to see, now's your time to tune out and just listen. They'll be making some really cool noises coming up, and it's actually part of how they got their name, the Tasmanian Devils, are these screams that they make while they are
Ready?
Yep, we are ready. And you guys can hear them now. They make these screams as they locate their food and partake. So, as Mary Beth said, we have two devils here, one male and one female. Bubbles is our female, and she is the one with the larger white stripe on her bum. And Spider-Man is our male, and he is the darker of the two. All right, we're going to take some of your questions here. I got to scroll back a long way. We got 1,000,000 questions to try and get through here. So, Ainsley wants to know why they have some white fur and some black.
That is just an individual difference, and it has to do with their genetics, and it's just similar to a horse or any other animal.
And it's how we can help tell them each apart, right?
Right. It's very useful for us to identify different animals.
And Logan wants to know where they're located in the zoo. Can you give them some reference points as to where we are?
So they are in Tembo Trail, at the entrance to Tembo Trail, and it's across from the indoor hippo viewing.
And if they actually have a really cool viewing, and there's a microphone so that you can hear those noises when you're here visiting them as guests too. Addie and JoJo would like to know, how fast can they go?
I looked this one up. They can run up to 8 miles per hour, and they don't, when they run, they look kind of like a horse, like cantering. Mm-hmm. So they have a very unique gait, and sometimes people will ask me, is it limping? And no, that's the most efficient way for them to run.
All right. Weston wants to know if they can hurt you.
Yes, they have a very strong bite and powerful jaw muscles, and they can crush bones with those. And so we do go in with them occasionally, but we're very careful not to get bit by them. We always wear sturdy boots if we go in with the animals.
And can you recap for Ulrich what they eat?
Yes. So here at the zoo, they get rabbits once a week. That's probably one of their favorite things. And they all are euthanized prior to us getting them. They also get chicks, rats, mice, bones. What am I forgetting? Deer meat. They get deer organ meat, such as heart and lungs, and that's all really good for them. In the wild, they would eat the whole carcass. Sometimes they won't eat all the fur. So that's pretty much all we find in some of the bigger bones, like a leg bone.
Wow. And just so you guys know, this is Spider-Man that we're seeing eating the carcass right now. And Nathan asks, are they related to Wolverines?
No, they're not. The Tasmanian animals are very isolated on their island, so they're similar size probably, but they are not related.
And Evan and Jacob would like to know what adaptations they have that help them survive in the wild.
Well, their adaptations would be their powerful jaw muscles, and they don't have real good eyesight. They rely primarily on their sense of smell. So when you saw them come running out, they kind of ran right past the carcass, and they'll run around until their nose locates where the food item is. They also have a pouch. So these are marsupials, and they're the largest living carnivorous marsupial, and that means a pouched mammal like a kangaroo. Their pouch is rear facing, and that's so that when they dig their burrows, the dirt does not go in the pouch.
That's really interesting. And Finn wants to know how old they are.
They are 3 years old.
All right, let's see here. Morgan and Bennett want to know if they could make a good pet.
No, absolutely not. Tasmanian Devils are kind of fierce and scrappy, and they're endangered animals, so they would not make a good pet at all.
And Trina asks, what kind of predators do they have to be careful of?
So their main predator is man, but also they could be, a smaller one could be taken by a wedge-tailed eagle. And another thing about Tasmania, they do not have vultures there, or buzzards. And so the devils are the cleanup crew, and they eat the dead stuff. And that's a very important job and role for them to play in ecology of the island.
Elias asks, how long are they?
They're about 2 feet long.
All right. And Logan wants to know, can they swim?
They are not afraid of water. They don't go in very deep water. We give them a little pool for them to wade through, and they do enjoy that. So they would be found around streams and things, but they would not go into the ocean and go swimming.
And we have to give a shout out for her 7th birthday. Happy 7th birthday to Jaden in Tiffin. Thanks for tuning in today, and happy birthday. All right, Catherine wants to know, how big do they get when they're fully grown, and how small are they when they're born?
Oh, that's a good question. So the first one, how big are they? They can be 16 to 18 pounds when they're fully grown. When they are born, they have a very short gestation period, and they're only as big as about a grain of rice. And then that little teeny thing, which is called an imp, develops in the pouch, and they only have 4 teats in the pouch, so only 4 of those, which there may be 20 to 50 imps, but only 4 of those will latch on to a nipple and drink the mother's milk, so they are mammals, will drink the milk and survive and grow to adulthood.
All right. And Gianna asks, if they're nocturnal, why are they awake right now?
They have kind of adapted to our period of activity. So they are active at night around here. The security guards tell me that they hear them, and sometimes it startles them when they're walking around in the dark at night. If they're not expecting it, they think, well, what is that? So they are active overnight, and they'll sleep during part of the day. They get a sunshine in their exhibit, and they'll like to bask in the sun, and they'll move around and go to different areas. And they're active, of course, because they're being fed.
Sure. And talk to us about that noise they're making right now.
So that's they make kind of a sneeze noise, and it's to tell the other one, hey, I'm here, don't bother me. They have a friendly noise, it's called an ouf, and that's what it sounds like. It's kind of a locating, like ouf, ouf, that's like a friend noise. And then they, of course, have screeches when they're defending their position, like where they're sleeping, or defending a carcass.
And Malia, these devils can be found at the zoo as part of Tembo Trail. As Mary Beth said, their viewing is right across from the indoor hippo viewing, or right before you go into the hippoquarium. All right. Wesley asks, how long do they live?
Tasmanian devils only live to be 6 or 7 years old, and we had 3 devils originally. We had Orchid, Tatiana, and Nugget, and Nugget passed away last summer. He was 7, and that's a really good age for a devil. They could possibly live a little bit older. I think the oldest recorded was like 10 years old.
Wow. And Quinn wants to know, why are they called Tasmanian devils?
So when colonists went to Tasmania, they heard these noises in the night, and they didn't know what it was, and so they called them devils, and it stuck as a name. They had an Aboriginal name, I can't think of it off the top of my head, and there's some debate about maybe using that name.
And Carlin says, why are they so cute? They are adorable in their own little way, aren't they? Joe asks, since they're endangered, are you working on breeding them here at the zoo?
Well, we hope to in the future. At this time, the Australian government has not authorized any zoos to breed Tasmanian devils, but that's possibly up for debate in the future. And there's only 7 zoos in the U.S. that have Tasmanian devils, and we were one of the first ones to have them. So we're pretty proud and excited about our role in being ambassadors for them.
Absolutely. And Wesley asks, can their teeth or jaw break bones in half?
Yes, they can. And there's really scrappy animals. They get injured sometimes in the wild, and they can recover from that. And one of the Australian people that I met was teaching me about the devils. He had one devil get its tongue bit off by another devil, and the animal still survived and
Oh my goodness.
found a way to adapt to not having a tongue.
Wow. And Ainsley, how you can tell them apart is Bubbles has a big white stripe on her bum, and Spider-Man is the darker of the two. He's mostly all brown. Blackish, yes. All right, let's see. Nathan asks, how long does it usually take for them to finish their food?
Well, a big feed like this, we'll leave that in overnight, and there will be some of it left. There'll be some of the bones, the bigger portions will probably be left tomorrow, and I'll take them out. When they get a feed like a rabbit, they'll eat the whole thing in a few hours. And if they get something smaller like a mouse or a chick, they'll just eat that in under a minute.
And Kaden asks, are they siblings?
No, these are unrelated.
And Kennedy wants to know, can you hold them?
So we are trained to pick them up. It's not to hold them to cuddle or anything. It's to weigh them or to transport them. And the way we do it is we have a burlap sack that we use to distract them. We put that over their head and we pick them up by the tail rapidly and put our hand underneath them to support them. And we do that for a couple reasons. One thing is to weigh them, although we also have a scale they're trained to go on. We also do it to put their flea treatment on, so they get a topical flea treatment called Revolution. They get that once a month. And we also have an off exhibit area we can rotate them to that is over in the back area of Africa. And we will switch them out sometimes for their benefit of enrichment. They can go outside over there and play. And once in a while you can see one from the train if you're riding over there.
All right. Drew wants to know, how do they catch their prey?
So they mostly eat dead stuff that's already dead, and so they don't have to catch it. But some smaller animals, they will just grab them with their mouth.
Okay. And you said they have really strong jaws and teeth.
Right.
Max wants to know if they eat any vegetables or plants.
No. As far as I have learned, they don't eat plant matter. I read that they'll occasionally eat beetle larvae, so insects sometimes.
Okay. And Leon, age 8, says, what is their defense mechanism?
Their defense is those powerful jaws and their vocalizations. So if you were to trap them in a corner, say you walked up on them, they would do a big yawn and show you their powerful teeth, and that's how they show other devils that they shouldn't be messed with.
And Ellie wants to know, how much do they weigh?
Our devils weigh about 15 to 16 pounds, and Bubbles is a little on the heavy side. We would like her to lose a little weight, so we do weigh their food in and out, but they get fed together most of the time, and Bubbles is very dominant and pushy and steals a lot of the food. So sometimes we will separate her over at the Africa stall and put her on a little diet.
Tenley wants to know what they play with.
We give them some toys such as Kong toys stuffed with food. They have some balls and browse that they will scent mark on. They have things to climb on. They like to go up on their wooden structure in the back and look around, and so they do explore their exhibit quite a bit of the time.
Isabel and Cassidy want to know, how long are their tails?
Their tails are probably about 12 inches.
And Luke asks, how high can they jump?
They can jump about 2 to 3 feet, so you don't want to, when we're working back here, sometimes we get tours. You can sign up for a behind-the-scenes tour, and we're always careful not to have anybody dangle their hand over the door.
And Molly wants to know, how did he get the name Spider-Man?
He came with that name from his other zoo, and it is so appropriate because he can climb like you would not believe. And there's a white box back here that you would just think, how would he get up on that? And on our video, overnight he was up on it somehow, and that's over 3 feet tall. And he also got inside of our structure we built back there that's supposed to look like the logs. He got inside of it like 4 or 5 times, and we had to fix a bunch of things about it and get him out. And so he is really aptly named.
Is very appropriate. And what about Bubbles?
Yeah, I don't know. She came in with that name. Her nickname is Bubs. So.
Bubs. I like it. And Thomas, age 5, wants to know if they would attack people.
They do try to chase people sometimes when we go in with them, especially Bubbles. She's really a pushy animal. And so we usually just hold a tool with us and show them our foot and try not to get chased out, because then if they learn that they can intimidate you, then they'll do it again and again. And if she comes closer, I can pick her up by the tail, and then that discourages that behavior.
And Lane wants to know, are they solitary in the wild?
They are mostly, from what we know, they're mostly solitary, other than a mother with her young, and she would have them in a den for several months. They're seasonal breeders, so they usually have their babies in March and April, and then the babies live with them for several months, and then by the fall and winter, by our winter, the babies start to go off and disperse.
And you mentioned our winter because in Tasmania,
right.
How do the seasons go?
Right, so they're the opposite. And when Corey and I went to Tasmania, we came back on the hottest day down there, the shortest day of the year, and we came back here. Take that back. It was the longest day there and the shortest day here.
Wow, yep.
That's a pretty big change.
And Haley wants to know, do Spider-Man and Bubbles get along?
They kind of do. They squabble a lot, but then overnight they'll be sleeping in their nest box together.
All right, let's see. Scrolling through. Kennedy wants to know if they like to play with each other or toys better.
Probably with toys more.
And you mentioned they have a very short gestational period. Can you recap for Sue what that was?
I think it's about, I would have to look it up again, but it's something like 20 days of gestation, and then the tiny imps crawl into the pouch, and then 4 of the 20 or 50 will latch onto a nipple, and those will survive most likely. And they'll be in the pouch for several months.
And will you recap for Max what they're eating in there?
That is part of a road-killed deer that was donated to the zoo by the Ohio Highway Patrol. And we get those pretty regularly, and so the meat doesn't go to waste here. It goes to a lot of the large carnivores like the tigers, the wolves, and the Tasmanian devils.
Very nice. And Aiden wants to know, where do these devils sleep?
They have a box back here that has bedding and a heated floor. They don't really need the heated floor, right now, but they like to sleep in there. Occasionally when we come in, they'll be under this big log here. They'll drag their bedding from the box in under that hollow log, and they'll be underneath there in the morning.
And Caden from Newport, Michigan wants to know, is their fur coarse or soft?
It is fairly soft. They have bristles around their mouth, and those are whiskers that help them to feel. Of course, it's night. They don't have good vision, so that helps them to feel where the other animals are, like the other devils when they're eating a carcass together. And that is kind of a social behavior that they have, that they will feed together on these large carcasses they find.
And Davin wants to know, do they dig holes?
Yes, they're very good diggers, and we spend a lot of our time filling in the holes they dig.
All right, and let's see. Karen says, will they eat the fur too?
They don't eat the fur very much. It'll usually be left.
All right. Since we're not going to breed them, are they spayed or neutered?
No, but our female has a birth control implant.
All right. Awesome. Nathan says, they're so cute. We think so too. These guys are really amazing. You heard them make some of those stereotypic noises that you associate with devils. And once again, we just want to give you guys a little recap here. We have 2 devils, 1 male and 1 female. You can tell them apart by the white stripe on their rump. The one that has the big white stripe running away from us right now is Bubbles. She's our female. And the darker of the 2 is our male Spider-Man. They live here in Tembo Trail, right across from the hippo viewing area. And Bubbles is now in the water dish. She's cooling off a little bit here for you. And as we said, they were given a part of a deer carcass for you guys to see today so that we could promote some of those natural behaviors and get to hear those amazing sounds. And let's see, we have a couple more questions here. Nathan wants to know, do they take baths?
They don't take a typical bath like we would, but they have a pool out there that's like a fiberglass pool that has about 5 inches of water in it, and they use that quite a bit. They'll go in it and splash around and climb back out again.
And Sue wants to know, will they groom after they eat?
Yes, so they use their little front paws to scrape away if they get something in their teeth. You'll see them doing that, and they will then they'll curl up and rest afterwards.
I think we're in the resting phase now. Bubbles has just made herself comfy and is apparently headed into the food coma here. All right, guys, we are going to end today with Bree's question of, why are they called devils?
Okay. When the European settlers went to Tasmania, they heard these crazy noises in the night, screeching, and they called them devils. And then come to find out that's what this animal was making that loud noise.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed dining with the devils here this morning, and that we will see you again tomorrow. Bubbles says it's nap time, so we gotta go. Talk to you guys later.